because now we're going to continue with business analysis. Guys, I know this is a tough time of year, and it's a bit of the material's a little bit dry on that. But remember, the whole aim of these 2 days, if you can just buckle down, you'll have a very good idea of what our PMA should look like. Okay? And then hopefully you don't have to spoil your Christmas vacation, even if you're not celebrating Christmas. It's still that time of the year, so everybody wants to down tools and just take it easy. So let's try and get this assignment out of the way. Remember, we're looking at the first part, so just give me those action verbs again. What was it? Identify, what was it?
Oh,
You
the
get to me?
needs.
Yes, the PMA, what did it say? Identify those action verbs, just remind me again.
And describe.
One probably read. Identify.
Identify and describe a business opportunity or need that could be addressed within your organization, department, or function.
Right, okay, so that's the first part. So remember, you have to do that clearly and concisely, and we spoke about that, okay? Then we spoke about the organization of that, defining that particular need or opportunity. Okay, so how are you going to define it? Okay, what is it going to be about? So that's very, very important. Okay, just look at the next. Oh, and my computer's decided to.
Rich, can we actually hand it in like a document, like an actual business analysis report?
Yes.
Can we just hand it in straight like that? It's like we're gonna, instead of making 2 contents pages and then still having our entire, I would imagine you still have our introduction page.
Yes.
Introduction page, and then you go straight into here's that boom.
Yeah.
The whole.
But remember, you're going to have a table of contents for your assignment as well, Brandon.
Yeah, but
So-
that's like doing 2. That's doing 2.
Yeah, but remember, it's
can
for
do a
section
small one.
2 as well. Remember, section 2 is about the slide presentation. And then you're going to have annexures if you need to add any annexures. So the table of contents for the PMA is very, very brief. It's maybe going to be half a page. But then obviously your table of contents for your business case is
It's going to be long, yeah.
So unfortunately you will have to submit 2 table of contents pages because there's 2 separate sections to this particular assignment. Okay. Right, guys, we know this, okay? Just to go through it again, a good writing style has several different elements. Let's just look at them. The first one, projecting the right image. Projecting the right image. Did I ever tell you that story when I went to SARS? And I was presenting ratio analysis, financial awareness at SARS. And what we were doing, it was for business analysts, and they wanted to know about ratio testing. And I projected the right image. What was the right image there? I went in my painting clothes. Did I ever tell you the story? Okay. So I actually went in painting clothes. I think I told you, okay?
No.
Did I never ever tell you? So we went into this boardroom. I got there very early in the morning. Went in painting clothes. Looked a sight. But why was I projecting the right image? Because the point I was trying to make, I was trying to capture my audience, and I was trying to prove a point that often in finance we look at aesthetics. So if a person or a business looks a certain way, it means they're making money. If a person's driving a Ferrari, it means they've got money, correct? If a person's wearing fancy shoes or fancy clothes, it means they've got money, correct? And that is often an incorrect assumption, correct? Because people are over-indebted. So this was the point I was trying to make. So the right image is a very interesting one because from a presentation point of view, you could go in a certain dress code that could project the point that you're trying to get across to your particular audience. So I went in painting clothes, and that actually grabbed my audience. And how did I grab my audience? I said to them I was there to fix the lights in the boardroom. And they were indifferent to me. They treated me in a very different way. They spoke down to me, and I allowed them to do it. And what happened when the module actually started? I said to them, okay, look, I'm actually here. Those people were very embarrassed. But I allowed them to be embarrassed because it actually I pulled my audience in, and I had my audience's attention. And then we spoke about aesthetics in business. We spoke about balance sheets, etc., etc. And if a balance sheet looks a certain way, often people think that the business has got money. But when you start digging a little bit deeper, often, well not often, but every now and again that particular business can be over-indebted. So projecting the right image, that's an interesting one, and I like playing with it. So think about your own situation, your particular business case that you've identified. Is there a particular image that you can address? Could you come a certain way, or could you know the audience that you're going to be presenting to? Do you have to speak in a certain tone? Just think about your personal situation, Marianne.
Personal situation.
Are you presenting only to mainly black males? No, I'm being serious. That's an important thing.
No.
Aren't you? Okay. That could be a cultural thing.
That's true.
And how you project the correct image is very, very important. Imagine if you were, Munir, if I may, and please shoot me down here, but if you were a Muslim lady presenting to a group of Muslim men, there would be certain etiquette that would have to be adhered to, correct? So you would have to, once again, knowing your audience, that right image that you're going to project. It's very, very important. Are you speaking, Philip?
Sometimes it's not about you, it's about the people. Because I've had an incident while I was working for ABSA a few years back as a implementation consultant. I went to Fenton store and I was facilitating and presenting new products and all of that. And everybody was sitting in the boardroom, and when I walked in to introduce myself, this regional manager, an old African man, walked out.
Sure. And how did you deal with that situation?
No, I greeted everybody, introduced myself, gave them an exercise, and I went to his office. And then we spoke, and eventually he came there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And that's how you dealt with the situation. So did you get angry about it?
No, I didn't get angry about
Sure,
it.
I would have taken offense.
But why did
You
he
better-
walk out?
Why did he walk out?
No,
Yes.
he was muttering stuff, and but for him, I was much younger than I look now, so you can imagine I was very tiny. It must have been 6-7 years back, and I don't know, for him, maybe, I don't know, he just couldn't accept me
That's
as a young black female having to stand up in front of him and
Teach him something.
teaching him something.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
perception. Perception is
So
a
I had to
powerful
go
thing.
and get his buy-in. And
That's a
sit
difficult
with him.
thing. That's a very difficult. Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that buy-in,
Yeah.
often a good way to get the buy-in. Let's say, for example, Brandon and Munir or Bianca, I keep on, coming to loggerheads with them. What you can do in your presentation is you can actually get them to start presenting a certain part of the presentation.
Yeah.
So you can put maybe a ratio up. Let's say you get to the financial section. You can put a ratio up, and you can say, Bianca, she's the financial lady. You know that she's against this particular project or proposal. You can say, Bianca, won't you please explain this to the group? Now all of a sudden you're calling Bianca. You're with me, the finance lady. HR, Nontombi, won't you please explain this part of the management side of this particular proposal to the group? So now they're not just listening, they're seeing that you see that they've got worth to give this particular proposal. You with me? So that's a very good way of getting the buy-in of your particular group. Have you ever done that before? Never done that before? So remember, use that, okay? Know your audience and try and get their buy-in as well. Get them to define certain parts of your proposal. Okay, so you can get that as well. Okay. Using the right language, very important. Knowing your group, okay, your target group. Are we going to speak above? Yeah, if you're presenting to a bunch of professors, which in your case is highly likely, then you can have your language maybe a little bit higher.
I did it recently, it was very tough.
It was very tough. Okay. So all of these things you have to think of. Okay, you have to, and it comes back to knowing your audience. Know your subject. Remember what I said to you. Okay, do you guys mind if I sit? Expecting more at eye level. But knowing your subject is such an important one. Okay, and it comes back to that dragon's den kind of scenario. If you're going to stand up and you're presenting subject material, and all of a sudden Richard says to Marianne, what about this? And Marianne goes, I didn't think about that. There's a problem. Okay, so you have to know your subject material very, very well. If, for example, you're presenting on a medical field or a mining instrument or something, and I say to you, yes, but what about this? And you say, I'm sorry, Richard, I don't know what you're talking about. I know straight away you don't know your particular subject material. Okay, enough. Allowing for research time, very, very important. Allowing for research time, your research time, where you can go and do some research around this particular proposal. So maybe it's around how many learners are needed, how much accommodation is needed for how many learners. Okay. Providing the right amount of information, isn't that a difficult one? Providing the right amount of information. What is that about, Bianca? Right, okay, true, yes, okay, dissertations meaning these long, lengthy assignments. What must it be? Concise and clear. So writing the right amount of information, Pierre?
It's like giving more illustrations and examples.
Illustrations and examples, but also, Brandon?
Not opening yourself for further problems.
Okay, so that old question that you need to ask yourself all the time, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? Okay, have I given too much information? Is there too little information? So that, the right amount of information, that's a difficult one. That's a very difficult one. And you can't, a lot of people come to me and say, Richard, when is enough enough? And I say, I can't answer that. You have to answer that for yourself.
But you would use smart for that as well, wouldn't you?
Smart, definitely. You do smart, simple, or specific, measurable, you know, all of those, that particular acronym. What else would you do? So you look at smart, what else? Know your audience. So you would know your audience, and you should be able to determine when enough is enough. Okay? You know that if you dealing with a particular professor, maybe they're very specific, you're going to have to give them more information. If you're dealing with a Richard, you're going to have to give certain maybe technical information. If you're dealing with a Brandon or a Bianca, you're going to maybe have to give management information. Marianne, financial information. So all of that information is very, very specific. Planning and structuring, very important. Has it got that logical flow? What should go hand in hand with planning and structuring? The editing process. Get other people to edit it for you as well. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Right, look at the next one. Assessing your style. So what kind of style have you got? Have you got an unhelpful style, or have you got a cooperative style? So look at the first one. It says, we are not able to assist you. Straight away, you're shutting the door in the person's face. Instead, you could say, we are willing to look at. So you're more open. Okay, so look at this different kind of style that you could address. You could address an unhelpful or a cooperative style. Look at the next one, undermining. Oh, that's not very nice, eh? Undermining. So, I am not sure you can do this job. Oh, who would get upset if somebody said that to them? I would take offense to that, okay? Rather say, I think you are doing this job well. However, okay? Authoritarian. In other words, it's my way or the highway. You must complete this job now, okay? Rather say democratic. When you have time, could you? Is this problematic? Can be. So I'm not saying this is only the right side. Sometimes there's a call to be authoritarian, especially if you've got Brandon, and his job is to sign off this part of the proposal. And the time frame was 48 hours. It's now a week, and he still hasn't signed it off. Then maybe there's a need to be authoritarian. Agreed? Okay, so you might have to chop between these two particular personality traits. And that's difficult. For a person who's more democratic to be authoritarian, is that difficult? It's difficult. And vice versa. A person who's authoritarian, all of a sudden to be democratic is also very, very difficult. Okay, abrupt. Well, if you cannot handle the project, it's a little bit talking down to the person, rather persuasive. I really think this is your project. I think you can do well in this project. You know, building the person up. Okay. Pompous. I've worked on many jobs like this. Remember that, especially when you talk to older people and older, who have been around the company for a lot longer, and they say, in 1973, we had, and we did 10 times more and we were fine. So unassuming, I will do my best on this job. Okay. Right, aiming for good text. Aiming for good text. Aiming for good text. The first thing we look at is project the right image, which we spoke about. Then we follow an outline. Remember that point 4. So we've got that outline. Use language suited to the recipient. Who's the recipient? Your group, your audience. Okay. And then show prior knowledge of the recipient. So Sydney, I know you said you had a son who was disabled. Sorry, Sydney, but you said you had a son that was disabled. I would like to bring to your attention this particular stat. Do you know that 1 in every 14 South Africans are disabled in some way or another? Look, I'm not just making this up, so don't take it as being verbatim. As a result of that, I see this particular opportunity. Sydney, your child is disabled in this particular way. All of a sudden, Sydney's going to say, hang on a second, just like Richard's taken time to know something about my child and he's incorporating into the business proposal. You have to be careful though.
But some people take offense to it.
Some people might take offense. So once again, knowing your audience. I know I've got a doctor friend. His child is physically challenged. If I talk about his child, I know he respects that. You respect that, but other people might take offense to it. Okay, so you need to know your audience. Show prior knowledge of the recipient. We spoke about provide all the necessary information. So yes, Sydney, your child is disabled, and this is the way I think we can make an opportunity. There's an opportunity to be made here. With disabled children, this happens. Why don't we try this and we implement it into the market? Okay, makes sense, guys? Look at the next one, defining your style. Stilted or self-conscious writing. Now, you can't say to me, Richard, what is my style? You have to decide what is your style. So, stilted or self-conscious writing, self-conscious, pretty much about what I'm doing. Okay? Use of outdated sentence construction, old English, that old English. Use of jargon or technical words. I think a couple of people in this class fell into that particular error section of the business proposal. For example, Brandon, if you don't mind me sharing, Brandon, was it Brandon? Yeah, Brandon spoke about EP.
Yeah.
He spoke about EPs, and I said, he made the assumption I knew what he was talking about, so I don't know what you're talking about. What is an EP? And he said, actually, I don't know what it is. They're using it at work from a communication point of view. Have you noticed that sometimes you use acronyms and you actually don't know what the acronym is? Maybe they're calling you a trick behind your back. And they're calling it an EP.
Expenditure proposal.
Expenditure proposal, okay. But often we use these acronyms and we just make the assumption everybody knows what we're talking about. Okay? Okay, so just be careful of that. Use of jargon or technical words. You're making an assumption that me, the reader, or the audience is going to know what you're talking about. Okay. Using wrong or inappropriate words, very, very important. Sorry, I'm moving backwards. Grammatical errors, remember editing process? Get other people to edit your work for you. Translating directly from a mother tongue into the English language. Use of over-constrained or formal language, making it too formal. Remember our CPA. What's the CPA? Making an assumption. What's the CPA? Recently legislated. There's your hint.
Oh God, isn't it the Consumer Price Index?
Consumer
Protection Act.
Oh, the
Consumer Protection Act. It was very much about this here. Formal language. Language has to be simple and clear and easy to understand. So if I'm signing into a car contract or a cell phone contract, you cannot try, you as the provider, cannot try and bamboozle me as the consumer with big fancy words. Correct? And all of a sudden Pierre signs and he says, oh, I didn't know I was signing that. Is it real in the South African situation? Very real. That's why you've got all the goggles in the rural areas. Correct me if I'm wrong. They've tied into Lubners, all of these furniture places where they buy a table. The table's R1,000, and after 20 years they're still paying that table off. Because I promise you. Okay, because they've signed into documents where they're paying astronomical admin fees. It's unethical behavior. So the CPA is there to protect us. We need to make use of simple language so that there's no unambiguous unambiguous areas in my business proposal. Does that make sense, guys? So I'm talking about one thing and Brandon's thinking about something totally different. There's a breakdown in communication strategy. Use of slang words and idioms, that's a difficult one. Once again, knowing your audience. So if I came in here and I said, that's my Chinese, today we're going to talk about, would you take me seriously? No, you wouldn't. Okay, you wouldn't. Bianca? So I've lost you already. As soon as I've said that, I've lost you. Okay? Here's, you have to make sure that your language is set at the correct tone, at the correct pace, and at the correct level for your particular audience. Okay? Using wrong or inappropriate words. Once again, that comes back to the old adage. I don't know if you remember that example they gave us in professional writing, where they say the boy was scared of the dark, and by the mother switching on the light, his fears were distilled. Is that incorrect or correct? His fears were? Right, okay, you distill whiskey or alcohol. You dispel fears. You don't distill fears. Okay, so that's actually comical once we actually look at it. So using words that we think we know the meanings of, we put them into sentences, we don't edit the document enough, and all of a sudden Nontombi starts laughing halfway through our presentation. And you think, geez, she must have really liked the cartoon strip. Meantime, she's laughing at that incorrect grammar that I used. Okay, so just be careful of it. Eh? Right, writing good text. I like this particular slide because it asks a lot of pertinent questions when you're at this particular point in your business proposal. Who is this letter written for? Now, ask me the question, answer the question please. How many people ask themselves this question when they're actually writing a letter? Because I often don't. And we fail right here. So you're very emotional about something. Maybe you come back from game or pick and pay and you say, that's it. I'm writing a letter and I'm going to let them have it. Have you been there? Come on, all of us have been there, correct? But we don't think about who's the letter for. Are we writing it at the correct level? So try and keep emotions out of this. What is its aim? What are we aiming to prove here or to achieve? What does the reader need to know? Very important. When is enough enough? Are we giving the reader too much information or too little information? Why does the reader need to know this information? That's an important one. So I want Brandon to understand this particular acronym, but why? Why is it important? And you need to define it. What does the reader already know about the subject? That's a lot of assumptions, correct? So you need to say, while you're standing up here, I know that we all know about EPs. Marianne, can you just explain quickly what an EP is? And then she will explain. So you're making an assumption, but just getting a brief overview that everybody, because maybe Pierre's sitting there and saying, I actually don't know what an EP is. But he's too intimidated to talk in front of the group. So you define it as well. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Yes. Because remember, if there's a lack of understanding here, there's a possibility that Sydney and Marianne aren't going to buy into your particular proposal. So you're going to maybe have 70% buy-in, but you actually need the buy-in from those two individuals because maybe he's finance and she's HR, for example. Okay, very, very important. So sounding verbose. What is verbose? Over the top. Okay? Like highly intelligent. So the right thing, buying in, contracting a service. Okay? These procedures conform to legislative requirements. Is that easy to understand? Mm-hmm. Yes. In other words, these procedures are in line with the law. Okay? Look at the wrong way. We have analyzed these items exhaustively and found at the end of our investigation that the procedures adopted with regard to the buying-in or contracting of services are in line with current legislative requirements. My good God. Okay, really verbose, over the top, long-winded. Okay. Sounding insincere, using new words not yet to be found in the dictionary. And our politicians do this quite well. Yes. I sometimes sit with the dictionary and think, that word. I can't find the word. Okay. So using jargon to sell an idea. Using jargon to sell an idea also. It can work, but you have to, once again, Nontombi?
Know your audience.
Know your audience. Right. Creates text that is designated to impress rather than inform. So maybe I'm presenting to a group of people, yeah? I know my audience, I know they're not financially literate. And I put up a calculus algorithm showing the Gini coefficient. I lost my audience? I lost my audience. Okay, so I'm creating this particular text and it's rather to impress. I'm thinking people are saying, oh, Richard knows his maths. Meantime, I don't even understand the algorithm on the board and I've confused my audience totally. Okay. The result is a writing style that is insincere and self-promoting. All about me, 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 me. Remember I spoke to you about the me, me, me generation? Okay, so we don't want that. Okay, remember it's not about me, as Rafael always said. It's about that objective that I'm trying to achieve. Okay. I love this letter. Have you guys read this letter?
No.
Rafael, do you mind reading? Who doesn't mind reading? Rafael, you don't mind reading. Okay, read for me, please.
Distinguished sirs, although keen to express my warmest felicitations and acknowledge the deep honor your request bestows upon me, I feel that the reasoning behind your policy decision, which is enough to make a wise man quick to cry out, like the furies of ancient times, angers me beyond belief. Your decision occasions the honors properly to lie firmly on my shoulders. Yet, in these parlous times, those beings of limited ability are inseparable from those with superior knowledge, many of the latter residing so near to Mount Olympus as to be unreachable. For these reasons, I regret that I am forced into declining your most felicitous invitation, your most honored servant.
Is that over the top or what? What is this person actually saying?
He's upset because he disagrees with him.
Okay, he disagrees with them, but also what else is he saying? I can't attend. He's obviously got an invite to something and he basically can't attend. So he's declining the invitation. That's basically what he's doing. but he's getting emotional about it, and he's including this verbose language. And how many people are confused? I'm confused. Okay, you lost me about halfway through the letter. So look, the evidence that the writer is trying to show off a knowledge of Latin, the onus probandi. I don't know what that means. Okay? This text may only irritate the reader. For these reasons, I regret that I am forced into declining your most felicitous invitation. Okay, guys, also way over the top. So taking the first steps, reading, writing, and rewriting. So go back to the letter. Is this really necessary? No. What is the objective? The objective is to decline an invitation, then stick to the basics. Okay, how would you have rewritten this?
Sorry, I can't attend.
So, no, I'm being serious. Sorry, I can't attend. Sorry, I can't attend. Because now you've kept the emotions out of it, even though you disagree with the particular reader. You don't want to upset anyone. Maybe you want to you want to make your viewpoint known. How could you have done that better?
Well, he's not saying anything about what his problem is. He's just moaning, but he's not getting to any point.
Right.
So if he said he's declining based on this reason, actually said this is my reason for declining, but like you say, him getting emotional about it is actually losing the point of this whole letter.
100%.
How old is this letter?
This letter has been used in business writing, and that I would say for the past 5 or 6 years.
But it sounds like it's from the 1960s.
Okay, yes,
or-
now I think the person who wrote it up actually just looked at Old English. So
Oh.
Old English, remember from maybe 1960s, this most probably was the letter that was found in all business writing books, correct? Okay, because this is the way they wanted us to write. I remember doing business writing at school, and it was so complicated and they would write these long-winded sentences, and I'd say, I just want to ask if I can go to the toilet. And by that time I'd already had an answer. Okay. Right, so reading, very important, okay, reading. So reading provides you with the background vocab. So what, give me another word for reading that I'm talking about here. Also with an R? Thank you, research. So it's your research that you're going to do around this particular proposal. Okay, look at the next one, writing. Writing develops your style. So write, rewrite, ask people to look at it for you, edit it for you, and then rewrite again. Rewriting, well, we just basically chatted about it. Rewriting helps refine your technique. Who knows they've got habits in their writing style or in their talking style that they need to be aware of in order to make their presentation and their writing skills better. I know of certain mistakes I make.
Yeah.
Who else knows of certain mistakes that they make? Good. Be open to that. All of us have disadvantages whether it's presentation, whether it's writing. You need to look at those disadvantages, those weaknesses, and try and turn them into strengths. If you sit back and you say, you know who I am? I'm Richard Goddard. Do you know who I am? And you sit back and you say, I just cannot learn anything more. I'm just so intelligent. Guys, you've already lost the point. Okay, we learn all the time from people around us. Okay. Right. I love this. Constructing concise. What is that? Another word for concise?
Short.
Short, simple, to the point. So avoid. They're saying avoid here. They don't say don't use, because sometimes, every now and again, there's a tendency to actually use one of these on the left. But invariably, this is clearer on the right. So look at the first one. It says during the year 2002. Guys, it sounds like you're in a Star Wars movie. Okay, just in 2002. Look at the next one. Fines were applied in line with the relevant regulations. The regulatory fines were applied. We wish to make the most of this opportunity to inform you. We would like to tell you that. Isn't that so true? We'd just like to tell you that. You won the lotto. Wouldn't that be great? We would like to request that you proceed to collect the debts. Please collect the debts now. Because that's what you're asking. You're asking them to collect the debts now. Would you agree with that? If you've got any of those, just remember to try and always talk in them. And then we talk about is it the passive or the active voice? Invariably it's active. Active, okay? I'm not saying you mustn't talk in the passive, but invariably active is more definite, it's more immediate. It's showing more action. Okay? So words that have several meanings just make the reader laugh. For example, the cook gently laid the eggs in the fridge. Chickens lay eggs, the people place eggs in the fridge. So you might say, okay, Richard, I didn't really think of that. There might be somebody in that particular group who's going to pick up on that And they're going to be thinking about eggs in the fridge, you laying eggs in the fridge as opposed to a chicken, and you're going to have lost your audience straight away. Okay. Look at the next one. When words are used out of context, it can cause confusion. The fireman committed an act of bravery. People commit robberies, but perform acts of bravery. Okay. Words that are not used correctly can cause confusion. The accusations will be received by pro-con. Accusations in this context are heard, not received. Avoid unintentional puns. For example, Dracula knew there was a lot at stake over what happened next. What's a stake? That piece of wood that killed Dracula through the heart. Okay, so that's an unintended pun. If you want your audience to laugh at it, then so be it, put it in. But what happens when they don't laugh at it? It also becomes a problem because maybe culturally that particular group of people don't know anything about Dracula. Okay, and you haven't taken time out to actually find that out about you. It is necessary to start the initialization of the project. What's the problem with that sentence?
Start and initialize.
Excellent. You could start and initialization. They're both the same thing. So this section is all about repetition. Don't repeat things that you've already said. Okay. We want to keep and same. It's the same thing. The highly unique. If it's unique, it's highly. Okay, so we can go on and on. So just remember that double barrel situation in sentences. Don't overemphasize something. And that will help. What's going to help you with this particular error?
Proofreading.
The editing process. Sorry, what did you say?
Proofreading.
Proofreading. Okay, that editing process. And then we spoke about active voice. So the boy rode the bicycle, not the bicycle was ridden by the boy. Which one's active? The boy rode
The bicycle.
It shows action. The bicycle was ridden by the boy. It's more pedantic. Okay. There are some times where we use the passive voice, and there it tells you if you want to sound polite or avoid sounding aggressive, you tend to use the passive voice. So I'm not saying you mustn't use the passive voice. Don't use too much of the passive voice and too little of the active. So it's that balancing acting. Carry forward. Everyone okay? Abrupt tone and less aggressive tone. Very, very important. Let's look at some examples there. The clinic cannot tell you your result because you have not paid last month's bill. That's like very authoritarian. That's very, very abrupt. Rather, your result cannot be provided as there is a payment outstanding. So, but with that said, it doesn't mean that this is wrong. Sometimes there's a call for that. Would you agree with that statement, Brandon?
Yes.
Sometimes there's a call to be abrupt. But invariably, you want to keep that network going between you and a debtor, for example, in this particular case. So therefore, you want to adopt a less aggressive tone. Okay, but I'm not saying that the left side's wrong. Okay, it's just that invariably you want to try and use a less aggressive tone. This is the estimate for the repairs to the window that your son broke last Thursday. Straight away, okay, pinpointing at a particular individual. Here's the estimate for the repairs to the window that was broken last Thursday. We all know the son did it, so we don't have to do it up again. We are going to dismiss 3 workers tomorrow. 3 workers are going to be dismissed tomorrow. I don't actually agree with this one. I think they're more or less the same. Okay, I don't actually agree. I think that's a little bit pedantic, a little bit over the top. So we are going to dismiss 3 workers tomorrow. 3 workers are going to be dismissed tomorrow. I would have said less aggressively. Unfortunately, workers will be dismissed tomorrow. Okay, that would be less aggressive because you're not mentioning numbers. Okay. The auditor handling the inspection noticed fraudulent activity in the company accounts. Fraudulent activity has been noted in the company accounts by the auditor. So you see that is the passive voice, so it's less abrupt, whereas this is active. Okay, but once again, it doesn't mean that's wrong and that's right. Both of them are right, just depending on the situation that you're in. Knowing the rules, writing freely, projecting an image, making use of other resources, using a dictionary regularly, using correct grammar, improving your text. How do you improve your text? Research, research, research. Okay, that's how you improve your text. By backing up the statements that you're making. Okay, be careful of statements like they say, he said, she said. Straight away there's going to be someone in the group and where did you get your information from? You want us to go with this 3 million proposal, and but you keep on making statements, he said, she said. Who are these people? Okay, so you need to back up your text with a great amount of research. Okay, we've already dealt with this. This is just repetition. Okay. Any questions around that, guys? John, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. Presenting your work. Remember, guys, this is very, very similar to our professional writing as well. So how do we present our work? Do we just go like this and say, there's the work like, sorry, Bianca, but there's the work like that? The presentation is very, very important. Sorry, by the way, would you mind signing the register? Okay. But presentation of work is very, very important. So how are we going to present it? Choosing the right font. We spoke about this. Okay? Choosing the right font and size. Adding images. Spacing and typing. Remember spacing and typing? Too much black is bad, too much white is bad. Remember we spoke about that. So that's that spacing and type. Illustrating your text. Making use of labels. So you want to know that from a reader-friendly point of view, Mary Ann, she's had a tough night last night. She can look down and she can get the gist of this particular document because you basically put it in pictograms for her. Okay, makes sense? Sorry, Mary Ann.
No, it's fine.
Okay, guys. So very, very important. Would you agree? Agree presenting your work, is that important?
Yes.
Very important for the reader. You want you to make it as reader-friendly as possible for your audience. Okay. Structuring your writing, establishing procedures, planning your work, organizing the text, conducting research, producing an outline, starting to write, revising and rewriting, asking for options. So all of this is a lovely slide where it shows a summary of everything we've been talking about. 30 seconds, look at it, and just tell me if it all makes sense. Can you see the logical flow? Sydney, can you see the logical flow there? You feel it? You failed to see it? The logical flow.
Yeah, for me it's not structured.
It's not structured properly, so what would you put first?
Maybe planning my work.
Yes.
Okay, and then establishing procedures.
Conducting research.
Conducting research.
Okay? Okay? I would go with that. I would go with that. Remember, this is a guideline. You don't have to agree with it. This is a guideline. But they're basically saying as long as all of those points are covered. What Rafael was saying, hang on a second, I don't agree with the order that it's in. And I'm fine with it. Who's run before, exercised before? You go to a gym and somebody says, you must do this exercise like this. And you do it and you think, I can't do that. And you find if you do it like this, it works better for you.
Yeah.
Correct? So you have to find what works for you here, as long as all of those points are covered. So if Rafael is going to say conducting research should come first, I'm fine with that, and it makes logical sense that you're going to rather do lots of research first for some people. Other people are going to say, no, we're going to establish procedures first. So as long as all of those points are covered. Agreed? You feel it? Are you happy with it? Okay. Bianca, you okay? Right. The inverted pyramid. This upside down pyramid. Okay, look at that. Main information. Look how wide that base is. Is there a lot? A lot of main information. What is that? Research. All of that research. Okay? Examples, backup information, arguments that support essential information. So let's say we're talking about the pork industry. We didn't know about gestation crates. We didn't know about, what was that thing, open pens. Open pens. So we would have to go and research all of that. We would have to look at laws that were associated with the pork industry. And then from that, we could give examples. What would our examples there be? Maybe newspaper articles. Maybe some research from the NSPCA or from the SPCA. Okay, we could do that. If you only gave examples from the SPCA, would that be problematic, Brandon?
Yes.
Why?
Bias.
Bias. Bias in what way?
It's not diversified information. It's information from one place only.
One source.
From one source only. So just be careful of that. If you're giving examples and only giving it from one particular source, that can be problematic. Because we can be biased with those examples as well. Because we're trying to lead our audience in a certain direction. Is that a bad thing? To
No.
lead your audience. Not a bad thing, because remember, that's how you get their buying. But remember, you need that ratiocination. You need to show advantages and disadvantages. Okay. So additional information, very, very important. Additional information, those are all those appendixes. So all of that shows you that your main information makes up the most of that business proposal. Then your examples, etc., and then your appendices. Okay. Any questions? Writing business reports. Lovely slide as well. Can I ask Sydney, won't you read for me, please?
There are 3 stages to writing a business report. First one is outline what the report will cover.
Stop there. That one statement, does it involve a lot of things?
No.
Well, it does involve a lot of thinking behind it. And the most important thing there is what? You can tell me.
Just outline.
Yes,
Our
outline.
report.
But don't you think it's also very important that what we spoke about this morning, knowing and understanding the business? If you do not know and understand the business, you can fail there. Would you agree with that, Brandon?
Yep.
So you have to know. So Brandon's in mining. If he does not understand the mining sector, he's going to fail there, because someone in that particular group is going to ask him a question, and it's going to stump him, and that's going to be the end of his basic presentation. Okay, makes sense, Pierre? Could you read the next one for me, please?
Provide details to back up your case.
Okay, so what is that about again?
Information.
Information, but
Research.
research, okay? So if you're talking about station, if you're talking about printing, Pierre, if you're talking about accommodation for students, you need to back up your research. You can't just sit there and say, you know who I am? I'm Sydney Pagati. I know everything there is to know about student rentals. Okay? You've only been in the market for a year or 2 years. You need to look at the past, look at the present, then you can speculate about the future. Are you going to look at American models? Maybe. But invariably you're going to try and structure it around a South African situation. So you can maybe give your group an American scenario or a British scenario, but that doesn't mean it's going to work in the South African situation. Okay, Sydney? That makes sense. Ophelia? Provide details to back up your case. What else are you going to have there?
Finish with a summary of the content.
Okay. And what would that involve?
It's the executive summary.
It is the executive summary, but also a summary of the contents. Give me another word for summary there.
Conclusion.
Just where you bring everything together. Okay, does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Right, so identify readers or users. This we know about this. Okay, so why is the report needed? What are the real issues? How did they arise? Was it through, I'll move the board there, but was it through pestle? Was it through SWAT? Was it through a terrorist attack? Remember my Swiss Army knife? Okay, that was as a result of a terrorist attack which affected pestle. Pestle in turn affected legislation in organizations. Okay, so all of those things. Who is going to use it? We need to make an assumption there. We can't be 100% correct there, but we need to make a calculated assumption. You see the difference between an assumption and a calculated assumption. So we build in risk factors and we try and evaluate how risky is this particular proposal. Okay, so what are they hoping to get out of it? Are they looking for specific ideas or information or for a solution to a specific problem? Remember our first slide, what was it? Known opportunity or need, or known solution or unclear application. Always go back to that slide. So it's about a known opportunity or a need. You know that that's a need or an opportunity in a particular environment, or it's a known solution, unclear application. I gave you an example of what there?
The pork cooking.
Right, the pipes and also
The Enron.
the fruit and the pork. Okay? Enron, we spoke about that where there was a known opportunity or need, where they defined a need in India as being electricity, but their assumption was incorrect. Okay, and as a result of that, that whole business failed. Okay, so just be aware you need to define exactly what you mean by all of these words, guys. We were over here. Okay, so what do they already know? What are their attitudes to the topic of the report? Very important. What decisions are likely to be made as a result of your report? So you need to have direction. So Pierre might be sitting there and saying, okay, Richard, this is your proposal. Where do you see us in a month's time? And you need to be able to project that so that you can get the buy-in of your audience. Make sense? Yeah. Right, guys, now, that's the end of that section. Unfortunately, we've still got facilitation skills to do. But from a writing point of view, let's just sit and chat about that for a second. Sit over here. And I just want to ask you now, let's just go through all of those writing techniques. And you see on the first section of your peer map, you've got that slide that shows you your title page. You know which slide I'm talking about? So that particular slide over there. Keep that in front of you all the time. Remember, that's going to show you exactly what is to be included and incorporated in your business case. Make sense? If you want to add anything, Marianne, can you? Are you allowed to add anything?
Yes.
Like Sasha spoke about guidelines, I haven't got a problem with that, as long as all of these areas are covered. Now I'm going to give you, let me give you 5 minutes. I want you now, if you want to close your eyes, you can, but just by yourselves, I want you to come up with an opportunity or need, and I want you to put it in black and white. Okay, so have it in front of you. I'm giving you five minutes. When you finish, just look at me, but it needs to be verbalized. Sorry, not verbalized, but written in black and white. So a lot of people say, no, I know it, it's up here. If you've got a mind like mine, in 1 hour's time it's gone. So put it in black and white. Okay, read.
That need is a societal need or what?
Comes back to that. So it's an opportunity in your business, or a known solution or unclear application. So something that's happening in your particular business where you're going to address either a known opportunity or need, or a known solution or unclear application. Make sure that everybody understands what they have to do. So this is the first part of your PMA. Just read the first part again, Munir. First part of the PMA, the first sentence.
Draft a report where you identify and describe a business opportunity or need that could be addressed within your organization, department, or function.
Right, so that's what I want you to do. Identify and describe. So literally one sentence. Off you go. You've got 5 minutes. Why am I doing this? To make your lives easier. So right now you hate me, but I promise you in 2 weeks' time you'll love me. Okay, I'm going to just leave you for like 5 minutes. If you've got a problem, put up your hand. Try and do this by yourselves, guys. Put it in black and white.